This is an interview with Mr. Availer Fowlkes for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Hunter with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is October 7, 1996. Mr. Fowlkes, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit with us today.
Sure.
Just want to start by asking some general questions about your family. Where are your mother and father from?
They was from Marion, Alabama. That's in Perry County.
Perry County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had 4 sisters and 6 brothers.
And where did you fit into that?
I came in about middle ways. It was just as many over me as was under me.
Oh, okay.
So I came
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Oh, okay. What kind of work did your father do?
He was a farmer, but he went to the service, World War I. He was a vet, World War I veteran.
Okay. And
When he returned, he was a farmer.
okay. And did your mother work outside of the home?
No, she was just a housewife and taking care of the kids and
Okay.
young housewife.
Right. What do you remember about growing up in Marion? That's Perry County, right?
That's correct. That's in Perry County. Well, when I was a young kid coming up, living on a farm, you go to work real early, and there was many things you had to do as a lad coming up on the farm. Then we had a certain time to be home. The sun couldn't go down unless you was at home.
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember very well that in those days and time, all your neighbors was your parents. They could tell you what to do and what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to obey them just like we did our regular parents. And that was one thing that would stand out, and we was not allowed to say anything out from the home that we couldn't say at home around our neighbors. And everyone at that time in the community was, if they was a senior citizen, they could help raise kids at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we really didn't want to do anything outside of the home, and the neighbors come back and give a report on us.
Because you had to pay for it then and then.
And double. We had double.
Double jeopardy.
That's what we thought, but as we grew up and got grown, we was proud of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How much education did your parents have?
Well, my father, he went to the 4th grade. He didn't have much education. My mother, she went to the 8th.
And for Marion, Alabama at that time, that was probably pretty good education.
Well, that's true. At that time, you could sort of get by, but this day and time, it's not enough.
That's right. And do you remember starting 1st grade? What do you remember about your elementary school?
Well, I remember first counting to 10 and ABCs.
Hmm.
They would start off, we had a book that with the ABCs, they was small letters and then it was large letters. Then we had to, after we could count to 10, then we would have to get a tablet and write to 10. And then we'd go on up to 20, 25, until we could get 100. So that's the way we started off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you were in elementary school, was your school, what school was it?
That was Perry County school. It was out in the rural, it was in the rural area, country school. That,
was it elementary and high school?
Well, not at that time. There was just elementary school. And then we later, we left elementary, went to Lincoln. Normal, that was a city school, that was over in Marion.
Oh.
And so we went there, and I dropped out. Sorry to say, but I dropped out at the 11th grade
Mhm.
and moved and came to Birmingham.
Okay. Did you participate in any extracurricular activities while you were in high school?
Well, we would play football, basketball, things like that. We did that in high school.
Mhm. And when you left Marion, you came to Birmingham. Why did you come to Birmingham?
Well, I really wanted to start to work, and at that time it was nothing but farming and sawmilling. And in the summertime, we went to school in the winter and fall of the year, you know, and then in the summer, then we would get out and work at the sawmill in the logwoods and things like that. And I just felt like I could do better. And I came to Birmingham, and the first job I got when I was here was construction job. And I'll never forget when I left Marion, I was making $20 a week. And I came here and worked 1 week, and I made $40-some a week.
Wow.
And I was real proud, and I always believed in trying to save something. And that was one reason I wanted to come and make a little money. And
Did you have relatives here?
I had some cousins here at the time, and I had an uncle who lived in Ensley, and but I stayed with my cousins.
So were you the first of your siblings that came, your brothers and sisters? You didn't have any of those here at that time?
No, I didn't have any here. See, what really happened, I had 3 brothers to go in service from down there. And I didn't have to go at that time. And when they came back, and then I left home, came up here to make some money. The government was paying them some money.
They were still at home.
They were still at home when they came back out of service. And I wanted to come and, you know, and kind of better myself. And so I came and started to work.
So you were how old when you came to Birmingham?
I was 16.
And your first job was construction.
Construction. I was working construction work.
How long were you on that job?
I worked that job about 2 years. And I liked the job, very well at that time, because we was making good money, but in the wintertime, it's cold and raining, and you was off a lot. And I decided that I was thought about going work at a plant or a place that I could work the year round. So I was fortunate enough to get on at Jack Cole Freight Line Company. Freight Line Company. And I worked there. We was in a union. Do I have to give the name of it?
What union was it?
Teamsters Local 612. Trucking union. And I worked for that company about 20 years. And
What did you do there?
well, I started off washing trucks, and then I moved on up to mechanic, trailer mechanic. As the years went by, then I moved up and began to work as a trailer mechanic, working on trailers, fixing trailers, brakes, and relining lights, and what it takes to fix a trailer to get it on the road.
So I know that you also served time in the military.
Yes.
At what point did you go to the military?
I went to service in '52. On November the 17th, I left home and went to Montgomery, Alabama, and I was inducted in service on the 18th from Montgomery, Alabama. And I served 2 years in the military.
So you were drafted.
I was drafted.
Was this during the Korean
conflict. I was during the Korean conflict, and I went to South Carolina and was orientated and taken some training, and then came back to Fort River, Alabama, and taken my basic training.
Hmm.
And when I left there, they shipped us to Fort Ord, California, and from there, Fort Lewis Obispo, stayed there a year, and then I went up to Fort Lewis, Washington, and that's where I spent my time out in that era, and then I came out of service.
So you didn't go overseas?
I didn't have to go over. They had things kind of under control and said they wasn't shipping no more over, and I didn't have to go.
Yeah. Well, how was that transition from Birmingham to the military?
Well, at the time, I really didn't want to go to, but they drafted me and said they needed me to go defend my country.
Mm-hmm.
And I was willing, other people went, and I said if they could go, I could go. And by the way, I had 3 brothers had been and returned. Now it was 4 brothers had went and returned. Mm-hmm. And so then I decided, I said, well, if they can go, I can go. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty easy. It wasn't that hard. And after I got in and the training I received, I was really, really proud of it. And that's something I wouldn't have missed for nothing, because it really gave me a lot of teaching and learning. Mm-hmm. But when I returned in '54, November 1954, and I was home about 3 days, and what really got next to me, they was trying to integrate the schools, University of Alabama and Mississippi, and I heard on the TV, and I was watching TV one day, and I heard a man say, the United States Army is not large enough to make us integrate our schools. That really went to the heart of me. I really felt like a second-class citizen at that point in time. And in the military, they teach you that you're first class in one thing, because they got their faults like anything else. But it was much better in the Navy, I thought, and in service, and it was out when I left Birmingham, Alabama. But when I came back and I was faced with that, and that really started me to thinking, and I had to make up my mind whether to go back to the service, really stay here and work to try to make things better.
So you made the decision to stay here.
And I made the decision to stay here. I said, well, I'll just stay home. This is my home, and I'll just stay home. I need to go back.
Well, did you get involved in the movement at that point?
Well, at that time, they had some meetings around different churches, and the first meeting I remember going to was they had a meeting. They was announcing in the churches they was going to have a meeting up to Sardis Baptist Church. That was in the Smithfield area up on the hill. Right. And I was glad to hear that. And I was one of the first, I guess, went in that door, because I wanted to see what they was going to talk about. And so bunch of the ministers got together, and Reverend Schellenberg, I remember him very well, and they was talking about Governor Patterson was the governor at that time, and he had outlawed NAACP, and they was meeting map and strategy. What was they gonna do because the received fee was borrowed from Alabama, and they came up with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, and I followed it to the end.
So you were there at the very first meeting?
Yes, I was there.
So you attended a lot of the mass meetings?
A lot of the mass meetings.
What was a mass meeting like? How would you describe a mass meeting?
Well, they would sing and pray, and they would tell the people's kind of information, tell the people's what's going on, and tell them their rights, and how we were being violated, and how we were second-class citizens and not first-class citizens, and we should be first-class citizens. And they just kind of got the peoples together. And when you get peoples together and working together, now everybody was for it, because even some of our ministers was against, and they thought they could work it out on the easy side, but you had to get out in the field and really struggle. And I was one of them right up front, because I believed in that, because when I went in service, that's what I got, an invitation saying, hey, go defend your country. And I kind of thought at one time I did have a country, but when I came back, I feel like I didn't have one.
So you were ready when you heard the word?
When the word, I was ready to move forward and work with the movement and march with them.
Well, you were
Pay
around.
money
You were around then when Fred Shuttlesworth's home was bombed.
Oh, yes, sir. I was here when that happened. I went over. I did a lot of sitting guard, watching around it. After that, we started watching our own homes and churches and the leaders' homes and things. Now, I lived in the Titusville area at that time, and so we had to watch our own homes. And then also, Reverend Stone was the pastor of New Hope Baptist Church, and we had a parsonage up on Center Way right next to Brother Armstrong. So I'm being one of the members of the church, so I watched the pastor's house at that time and Brother Armstrong. So I did a lot of going in the midnight hour at night watching.
Well, how did that process work where you would actually watch? Would you watch at specific times? How was that organized?
We had release crews. We had people who come certain nights and would stay, and we had it pretty well organized. We know who was going to watch this night, the next night, and things like that. And so we had it organized. They did. They had it organized. And anytime I was called on to go watch, I felt good in going.
Did you ever encounter any difficulties?
Well, the only difficult I really was a part. Well, I don't guess it was really difficult. The police would come by and try to harass us at that time, want to know what we was doing and do we have any guns and things like that. And and then they would tell us we couldn't have guns, some of them, and then they said, well, just keep them out of sight. And
did you have any guns?
oh yes, we went out there with just rocks. We didn't believe in that. And we felt if someone came up and was going to do harm to the persons live there, their home, we was going to do our best to stop them. And we couldn't stop them by holding them.
Hold them till the police get there.
Get there.
Yeah.
We can have that in mind.
So that, did you ever have the occasion to have to use the arm?
No, we didn't. On my shift, on the watch side I was on, we never did have occasion to do that. I remember one night we was on Green Spring Avenue, that's over about where I live, and a white man stopped, and he thought it was just one person. And when he saw us getting out the cars and everything, he took off, and we had some guns, and he took off and said he was going to send the police and put a yell, but we didn't have any trouble. Didn't have any problem.
So you were consistent and men would volunteer for that duty.
Yes.
And you didn't have any difficulty in trying to get people to help you.
Oh, no, at that time, most of us didn't have any confidence and faith in the police department. We just didn't have the faith, and we felt that if we was gonna be protected, we and our families, we was gonna have to get out and do it ourselves, and that's what we was doing. And we didn't mind doing it, because at that time, we just didn't feel that they was gonna do the job. And so we know somebody had to do it, and we was glad to do it. I was glad, one of them glad to do it.
Did you ever have to actually guard the mass meetings, the churches from the church?
Oh yeah, every time we went to a meeting at that church, we would have guards there, and we would have detectives sitting in on the meeting taking minutes. They wouldn't have guards; they had to take minutes and
These are white detectives.
White detectives.
For the Birmingham Police Department.
Birmingham Police Department. They came to every meeting and sit in, and they would take notes. Two of them. They would have their guns on them. But we had people outside and to watch in the trains, a fishing car come up, and we had people's guards to do that all the time.
Did you ever have any problem going back and forth from the meetings with the police?
They would stop some people. They would stop them and harass them where they come. And then at that time, they would really, if 2 or 3 in the car, they would want to stop and talk to them. But I don't recall we having anybody arrested at that time, but they would always stop you.
Were you ever stopped?
Yes, I was stopped.
What did they do or say?
They just want to know where you come, what's your name, where you live, where you're coming from, and things like that. They just want to, and stop you and talk to you and check your lights and look at your driving license. And they just stop you and talk to you a while, and then, well, they did me, and then they said, well, you can go now.
So they were making the effort to intimidate you?
Well, that's what I felt. I felt that, they knew where we was coming from, where I was coming from. They know where the next move, every movement was what church it was gonna be at this week, and we was having it every week, and they would know, prior to that, where it gonna be, and so they know where we was coming from.
Yeah. Where did you work at that time?
I was with Jack Cole, the freight line company.
Okay. Well, did you have any problems as a result of your involvement with the movement?
Well,
on your job?
They during that time, and they know people was marching and sitting in, and they would always talk to you in a rough way, a tone voice, and they would put, at that time back there, they would have 4 or 5 lights working, I recall very vividly. And they had one young white man, he was our boss, and he was just over us. His job was just to watch you and try to intimidate you, so you could make a mistake or do something that you could be fired. But I never was fired.
Did they know that you were involved in the movement?
Oh yeah, they knew that I would go to these meetings and things like that. They know it.
Did you demonstrate?
Well, I would march on weekends with them. And they was taking pictures, and I'm sure they saw my picture somewhere, but they never did really call me in and sit down and talk to me or say anything. about the movement and things like that. We never did do that.
Yeah.
My job did.
Right. You participated in demonstration. What was that like? For a person that never participated in demonstration, how would you describe it?
Well, you had some people who was afraid, but once you get a crowd together, they feel easier. And you have someone up, and we would always be singing and a song and just marching, and we always talked about freedom, and it's a struggle to get freedom. And looked like the people was concerned about really being free. And you take, when we go to these meetings on Monday nights, they would tell what happened over the weekend. They would bring us up to what happened in other cities and things like that. And so it would just inspire us and encourage us to keep on keeping on. And that's what we could do. And we really kept marching until things started kind of touring some things. And one thing about it, when they put on the boycott that in the city here in Birmingham, nobody go downtown and buy anything, and everybody just wear old clothes and things like that. And that's when the city fathers and some of them started listening when that money wasn't going in their pocket. And that was really one thing that when they started that, I don't think they was too afraid or didn't care too much about marching. But when you start buying and put that economic buying on, that's what got the merchants' attention downtown, and that's when they have to talk to the city fathers, because black people spend a lot of money in this city and during that time. And so,
Well, when you during the demonstrations themselves, what do you remember? What is the most vivid memory of the demonstration that you participated in?
well, that was one Sunday afternoon that we was marching from New Pilgrim on 6th Avenue, and they had some children's in jail just across the viaduct, in the city jail. And we was gonna march, and we had a meeting at the church, and then we was gonna march down to the jail, which was about 2 blocks away. And the commission, Bull Connor, he said, don't let them march, and they brought out the fire hoses and things, and we was marching, and we was moving in a fast direction. Some of us was running and one thing and another, and he told the man to turn the hose on, and he couldn't get it hooked up or something. The water didn't come out on us, and he was trying to, and then we went on across, and we went to where we wanted to, and in the park over there, just across from the jail on 6th Avenue, and then we sung and prayed and everything, and then we marched back to the church, and we didn't have any incident. The next time that really stands out in my mind, that we was in the park over here, just across the street, and Kelly England Park. I remember this one Sunday, and the people we was having a rally and marching, and they brought the dogs down there, and they sicked the dogs on them. And the man, that was a young man that they turned the dog loose, and him and the dog was wrestling like, and that dog was fighting him, and he was fighting the dog, and you're standing back looking at something like that, and it was just, now that's when we really when I really got afraid, you know, the way they was doing, and then they would, 3 or 4 officers would take one young kid and just throw him down, and all of them on him, handcuffing and arresting people like that, children, you know. That was kind of a scary moment. That Sunday afternoon, now that's when I really got afraid.
Did that end your participation?
No, sir. No, sir. It looked like it just put fuel on the fire, and the people just kept coming and going, and then other people from other, you know, cities, preachers would come and speak and tell we doing the right thing, and then we had whites that come and speak and say, y'all doing the right thing, and we with you, and we gonna pay money and help us in this struggle. And then you had white marching with us.
So you had actually had white marching on that Sunday with you?
With us, marching that Sunday, we went down to the city jail. We had some whites in there. Whites just really, some of them would just march. I remember another march this Sunday that was the Pillars Bridge in Selma. Now, I wasn't there that Sunday, but the next time they march, I marched. I would go down and march on weekends, and that Sunday, the next couple of Sundays, we got together and we went across, and we had protection from the National Guard. They federalized National Guards when they marched from Selma to Montgomery.
Right. You were not there for the Bloody Sunday.
I wasn't there that Bloody Sunday. But when they got the guards federalized and everything to march, and I was in that march, because I didn't go all the way to Montgomery. We made our first stop and was gonna camp that night, and I would have to come back because I would have to work, because I had 3 kids and a wife, and I would have to stay on the job every day. But at night, I get out there with them and watch.
Were other family members involved?
No, not my family members, no. My kids was too small, and my wife, she stayed with the children, and she didn't take an actual part in it like I did.
Did you have brothers and sisters here by then?
No. My brothers, I'm the oldest one in Birmingham, came to Birmingham. Now, they went to Ohio and Chicago and Fort Wayne and Detroit. That's where they settled at. But I was the oldest one that came here and stayed.
Well, as you participated in demonstrations, you also a member of the Teamsters local.
Yeah, we was in the company, we was in the union. Teamsters Local 612 represented the Jack Cole Company. See, that's a big union, that's a large union. But the truckers and also the garage and shops and things like that, they, and it is a good strong union now, the Teamsters. Because I don't feel that it is as strong as it used to be. That used to be showing up a powerful house. When you said the Teamsters, people stopped.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa was the man. Now, a lot of people talked about him and criticized him, but he might have got money, but he fixed it so the wealthy people could get money too. And I'm retired now on that Teamsters pension, and it's a nice one.
Well, was the union at all involved with the movement?
No. Now, at one time, the movement, the Teamsters International gave a donation to the NAACP, and so we got the Alabama Christian Movement got some, and so some of the members here, white members, wanted to question And he told them the executive board okayed that. And so that was the end of that, the gift donation.
Mhm. Are there other areas that you'd like to talk about? And I might ask a question related to it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we end the interview?
Well, about the only thing I could add to, or would like to add, because of the movement, I was elevated to a good job. And I have 6 kids, and by having a good job, I was able to send 5 of them to college and to get a degree. And I was able to pay for it. Now, one finished high school and didn't want to go to college. And you can't make them go when they don't want to go. But this job that the movement is the cause that I was on, that I had the resource that I could send them to school. And I was real proud of the movement, and I'm also proud of the Teamsters Union. I was a business agent. I did a lot of traveling and negotiating contracts.
So you are a union official.
That's right. And when union member that I was handling that bond, and he got fired, then I was the man to arbitrate. So the Teamsters business agent, they did all the negotiating contracts, but the company would have a lawyer, and but we would use as the business agent. If a man got fired, the business agent would do the arbitration, and the company side would have a lawyer. And I really enjoyed my work after I got with the Teamsters as an agent.
How long did you serve in the Navy?
I stayed there for 18 years, and then I retired. And so I stayed with Jack Cole Company 20 years, and so I retired from Teamsters for 612. And I had a lot of experience in that field, and did a lot of traveling. And if we wasn't in a car and we was on the plane, we had to have transportation. Our job recalled for that. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I look back and say, I'm here because of the movement. And I'll never forget the movement, because when I came out of service, that didn't elevate me to where I didn't think I should have been at the time by serving. And but this movement, and I could see right off when they started it, that some good was gonna come out of it.
So that's why you got.
And that's why I got an active part of it. And a lot of times my wife would tell me, say, you be careful because you may lose your job. When I was working for Jack Cole, but then I moved up to the union, and I will never forget those days, and I just really proud to have been a member of the movement. And so I have retired, and I'm really enjoying it. And life is good to me now after I retired. Now, I don't say everything is rosy. I know that. But the only thing I look back and see young people don't appreciate some of the things that they do have. Now, that's what kind of bothers me, because they don't know what we went through. And I feel, now this is my personal feeling, that they're trying to turn the clock back with our young black men. And they have greater opportunity than I had when I was coming up, if they keep their record clean. I'm proud of my children. All of them is working, but one, my oldest daughter, she's married, because I have 3 married and 3 is not. I have a son is in the military. He's in the Navy, and he's been in 15 years, so he's gonna make a career. It's all possible.
Right.
I'm just proud of my children,
Yeah.
and that's about all I would like to say at this time. I'll answer the questions if you have any. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, because you've been very helpful. And what we're attempting to do is to give everybody who was involved the opportunity to give their perspective of the movement, and you've done that very well.
Well, I really appreciate it. So, and anytime, if you want to call me again and say, could set up an appointment or something that we left out or missed, please feel to do so. Feel free to do so, because I would be glad to help in any way that we can get something going. And I really enjoyed the interview.
All right. Thank you, sir.